So the other night I was watching a TV programme. It was an art documentary, and there was a little bit of an interview going on with some artist that I'd never heard of. And the question was asked, what is art? And the guy being interviewed, the artist being interviewed, replied that for him, art is as varied as the faces of the artists that create it. And I love that. And that gave me an idea to create a mixed media canvas. And this is what I created. And I'll join with you again at the end. So we're beginning this project with an 8x8 flat canvas. I'm also going to be using the fine modelling paste from Indigo Blue, and out of my collection I've dug out my 12x12 HARLEQUIN stencil from FINNABAER for PRIMA marketing. And I'm just going to apply the modelling paste quite thickly through the stencil all over the canvas. So now I'm happy with the thickness of the layer of modelling paste. I'm just going to very carefully take that stencil off, and then using the palette knife I'm just going to scrape around the edges just to remove any excess modelling paste. And then while the modelling paste is still wet, I can get it all cleared off my craft mat so that I don't put my elbow in it by mistake. So next, I've recently picked up some very inexpensive small resin picture frames. These are only a couple of inches across, and I thought they would be perfect for this project. Now these are from a company called SIL. I think they're a European company, and I purchased these in my local craft store, and they were very inexpensive. And then raiding my stash once again, I'm going to be using this super thick Slap-It-On, which is the super thick gel medium, and these wooden alpha letters. And I'm going to just butter the back of the letters and then just stick those down into the still wet modelling paste. So the gel medium and the modelling paste will help to adhere these to the canvas. So those are my three letters stuck down, just adjust the R. And then I'm also going to stick in some small resin faces that I picked up, or I found on eBay. And I'm sorry, I can't remember the place that I got them from on eBay, because I've deleted, once I'd received it and left feedback, I deleted it. I do apologise. So now that all my focal items are positioned on the canvas, as you can see, just a little bit of a close-up there for you, I'm going to take the modelling paste again, and I want to create a kind of rough border all the way around the canvas. So in those areas where there is no modelling paste from the HARLEQUIN stencil, I just want to create a kind of rough border, just framing the canvas all the way around. So as you can see, all I'm doing is just using a little bit of the modelling paste, just going around and stippling and just spreading a little bit of that modelling paste just around the edges, just to make sure I've got a nice border. And then I'm going to put the whole thing to one side and I'm going to leave it to dry overnight. So this has been left overnight now, so all of the gel medium and the modelling paste is now completely dry, so I can get on with the job of adding some colour. So before I can add any colour to the canvas, I need to prepare and prime the resin items and the wooden items to accept some colour. So for that I'm using white gesso. So I'm going to go over the entire of the canvas. I'm also going to make sure that the resin frames and the resin faces also have a good coat of gesso, but because this is a bit of a boring process, I'm just going to show you a little bit of what I'm doing, and then I'm just going to jump to the end where I pick up my heat gun. So the entire of the canvas is now covered in gesso, and I'm going to heat it with my heat gun to make sure it's all nice and dry, and then I'm going to apply a second coat. And again, I'll do a little bit and then I'll jump to the end, because obviously you don't want to sit there watching paint dry. And then the final dry of the second coat to make sure everything is perfect and ready to accept the first layer of colour. So my first layer of colour that I'm going to be applying onto the canvas is going to be an all over coverage of this pale olive acrylic paint from REEVES. So once again, because this is just a bit of a repetitive process, I'm going to show you a little bit of painting the canvas itself and doing the edges, as you can see now, and then I'm going to jump to the end where the canvas is completely covered in the paint. So almost complete, and I've left myself nowhere to hold the canvas that isn't wet. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my heat gun and I'm going to dry the paint that's already on there, which then will enable me to be able to pick the canvas up and finish painting that final small area in the bottom right hand corner. So we're all painted and we're ready to do our next layer of colour. So I'm going to be using these mini misters from Ranger, and I'm going to take a little bit of this hot cocoa acrylic paint from Indigo Blue, and I'm just going to add a little bit of the paint into the mini mister container where I've already put some water in. So it is watering it down a lot, and that will give me enough colour to spritz through over the canvas. So this next step where you spray onto the canvas is always the most scary one, and it's the one part where people always go, no, don't do it. But you'll see, it does turn out okay in the end. So I've mixed the hot cocoa paint with enough water to be able the paint to run down the canvas and seep into all the little valleys of the texture of the modelling paste. And when I get the heat gun on it and dry it off, you'll see what I mean. It will just give it a nice kind of background and a little bit more definition to that texture. So once we've got that layer of the brown paint dry, we can start adding on a next colour. So this time we're going for the lavender acrylic paint from REEVES, and again I'm going to do exactly the same thing. I'm just going to squeeze a little bit of the lavender paint into the mini mister where I've already put some water in, and then I'm going to give it a really good shake up to make sure it's all nice and mixed, and then I'm going to spritz over the canvas again. And yes, I am aware it's going to look like a complete hot mess, but you've just got to trust me. So I'm just allowing the paint to run down and soak and kind of drain away on its own. And then I'm going to grab a little piece of I'm going to grab my roll of kitchen towel, and I'm just going to soak up the excess from the edge of the canvas. So that paint that's on there now is going to stay where it is. So I'm going to give it a little bit of a help to dry with the heat gun, and then I'll show you it once it's dry before we move on to the next step. So the next step is to try and pick out some of that detail, try and highlight the detail and the texture that's on the canvas. And to do that, I'm going to be using the white gesso again from Indigo Blue, and I'm going to be just dry brushing over the top to pick out and highlight all those raised areas. And I do have a few issues with this brush because I keep getting stray hairs from it. It's obviously a very cheap brush. So as you'll see, I will go through the process of adding the white gesso over the top in that dry brush method, but because it's kind of a repetitive process, again, I will jump to the end. As you can see, I've gone over the entire of the canvas, I've gone over the faces, the frames, the letters, and I'm really happy with the way that the paint has picked out all that texture, not only from the canvas itself, but also from the modelling paste too. So I think we're ready to go on to our next step. And I'm going to do exactly the same thing, but this time I'm going to use the gold metallic acrylic paint from Indigo Blue, which is called Goldfinger, and I'm going to dust over using the dry brush technique again, exactly the same way that I did with the white gesso, but this time I'm going to do it with the gold. I'm now very happy with the gold highlights on the frames, the faces, and on the letters. So all I need to do is just to add a little bit more of that gold onto the background of the canvas. And to do that, all I'm going to do is mix some of the gold metallic paint again with some water, and using the fan brush. Now, I obviously didn't make enough of the paint because I couldn't get too much of it off, so I had to make a second batch, make it a little bit looser. You'll see me just using the fan brush, just splattering the gold in the top right hand corner of the canvas and the bottom left hand corner of the canvas, which just kind of brings it all together and makes it a little bit more cohesive because you've got those colours throughout the entire of the canvas. And that's pretty much it for the canvas. All I have to do now is just to use the heat gun and dry off those splatters, and then I'm going to call this canvas complete. I don't think it needs any more at all. So I hope you enjoyed watching that mixed media canvas come together. If you're interested, this canvas is going on my website for sale. So if you want to own that canvas, you can do. All you have to do is pop across to my website and you will find it there in the shop. So that's all from me for now. If you've enjoyed the video, please remember to give it a thumbs up. share the video with all your friends, and if you haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel already, just click the button at the end of the video. I'll see you all again real soon. Bye for now.